right? And again, you want to do it with a pencil because, first of all, you want it to be lighter. You don't want this to show through your paper in the final if you're a little crooked. And second of all, you might even want to erase it close to the end. Okay, or you might screw up. So now, you only have to do that once on the very first page. You don't have to do that on every other one. So now we're ready to assemble our book. Now, the cool thing is that it should all be lined up perfectly because of the way we cut everything, right? So the one thing, the most important alignment that we have to make to start is going to be the spine. So at the spine of the book, we want all of these to line up perfectly, right?
So I think step 5 and 6 we're headed to, right?
Let's see. Yes. We're on step 5 and 6 on page 2. Now, the best thing to use here are clothespins. Clothespins are perfect to use because they won't crease your paper. So this is one of those points where I'm going to tell you what not to do, and then I'm going to do it. Don't use these. Okay, don't use these clips because they're so tight that they're going to crease your paper, and that's why you use clothespins. If you don't have access to clothespins, you can actually just wad up a chunk of paper, take one of your scraps, wad it up, and put it under the clip so that it will dent this and not your book, okay? But I'm not doing that. So again, the spine is what we want to line up perfectly. Right? So I'm going to make sure everything's lined up really perfectly here, and I'm going to use 3 clothespins, just like in the picture, not like what I'm actually doing, and I'm going to clip all of those together, right? So theoretically now, I should be able to actually flip through my book, and I suggest you do this at this point, because it's very easy to get a spread upside down, or out of order. So you want to start at the beginning and sort of turn the pages and make sure that you have everything in order. Oh, look what I did. Anybody notice what I did? Totally flipped them upside down, right? So if I can screw up, guess what? So can you. So now I have them in the right order. They should line up absolutely perfectly here, and I'm going to put those 3 clothespins in place. So now when I flip through, they're all in the right order. Okay? In between every spread, you're going to have a blank spread. Right? That's just the way it is. Now, the next step is if you have Studio Tack, and I know lots of you bought Studio Tack last semester, you can use that. So this is a sheet of Studio Tack. That works beautifully. I understand that the Studio Tack factory has burned down, and there is no longer Studio Tack to be purchased. So if you're in that boat right now and you don't have Studio Tack, then you need to find an alternative. There's one thing I can guarantee will work, and there's another thing that could work. We have to try it out. There's this stuff called Twin Tack. Did we bring some Twin Tack down?
Here. It's,
oh, it's this.
I cut you some sheets, and then this is how Twin Tack comes.
Okay, so Twin Tack comes in a single sheet like this. It's on like a heavier kind of stock. Where is it here? This is Studio Tack, right? Aha. So it's the same sort of a concept. I'm going to start by showing you how to cut your Studio Tack, and then we'll try it also with the Twin Tack. The other stuff that might work is drawing mount. It's used for photography if you've had a photo class. And a couple of students in my class said that they thought it might work. I'm not familiar with that product, so I'm a little nervous about telling you that it will certainly work. But if you wanted to try it for your dummy book and see, you could feel free to do that. Okay, so again, I hate to measure. So I use the width of my ruler to cut through my Studio Tack because I don't want to have to measure. And I need strips. So the strips have to be more than 8 inches long. So I'd make them like 9 inches long so you have some forgiveness. And then you're just going to cut strips. So you just lay the ruler, line it up on the wrong side, and cut on the other side. So you have nice even strips. And then you'll need one for every spread. Okay? No, I lied. You need 2 for every spread. So let me cut. Well, I guess I'm okay. I'm going to cut one more just so you can see again. Okay. So, and here's a strip of the twin tack. So we'll try the twin tack on one side and the studio tack on the other. Now, how many of you have studio tack from last semester or have studio tack laying around? Okay, so some of you want to use studio tack. So just to go over how studio tack works, basically there's 2 sheets of paper with an adhesive in between. So when you pull it apart, you can see there are white dots on one side and the other side is the carrier sheet. These white dots are evil, and they will stick to your fingers, they will stick to the surface, they will stick to your food, they will stick to your cat, they will stick to everything. So you want to make sure that before you do this, you put down something to protect the surface. So have a stack of cheap paper, use newsprint, whatever, next to you so that you can kind of blow through this paper as you go, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. So we have this side of the book clipped. I'm going to go in between these 2 pages and lay down a strip of studio tack. Okay? So I'm going to open it up. Discard the carrier sheet. Put the studio tack in between and overlap into your bleed area slightly. So it looks like this. Can you guys see that? Okay. And then you're going to burnish. So just use the other end of your bone folder and burnish it really well. And if you burnish it well, the cover sheet will just sort of fall off. And when you remove it, there should be no dots left on the carrier, right? Then all you have to do is carefully close down the sheet before it and burnish that. Now, what you don't want to do is take anything that has anything to do with studio tack and put it near here. So you want to get a clean sheet of paper, protect your work, and then burnish on top of that, okay? Don't burnish right on your work because inevitably you'll scratch the surface of it or you'll add some weird sheen to it that you don't want. So always think about protecting your pages. And then you're going to do that again through every single spread, okay? So now when you turn the pages, you should see it should turn very evenly, right? All of your pages are going to be double thickness. So that's why you want to be sure to print on relatively thin paper, unless you're doing pop-ups or something, in which case all of this is different. If you print on thin paper, then double thickness won't seem really, really thick. So now we can take this off, and our book will hold together, but it's going to do this, which is not good, right? So what we want to do now is hinge the other side. So I'll try the twin tack here. It's been a long time since I've used twin tack, but it's basically the same concept.
I personally love twin tack, but there's no forgiveness. You put it down, it's down. If you mess up, you start over. But you put something together with twin tack and it'll stay together forever and ever.
So you're an old woman like me. So again, there's the carrier sheet and the sticky stuff. Yes?
What happens when you're doing a fold out?
We'll talk about that individually. Yeah, we'll talk about that individually in class.
It's actually not that different, but you want to, yeah.
We'll do that together.
Okay, so now at the other end of the book, I have to be careful that I align this carefully with the spine. So I want to lay this down right on the spine. And again, I'm going to burnish it down. Peel up the cover sheet. And you can see the adhesive on the page, right? Can you guys see that? So there's no white dots, there's just this stickum now on here. And again, this is where you have to be really perfect. You're going to put it down. And now your book block should be complete except for the trim. Okay? You guys all with me here? Okay. Now remember, the first and the last page here is going to be an end paper. So just to keep that in mind.
That's good.
Okay?
That's done good.
All right, I still have the whole cover to do. All right, so let's talk fast about the cover. So for the cover, so we're done with the book block now. For the cover, you need a piece of book board. Now in a pinch, you can use the back of a pad of paper. Book board, you're going to see, is much smoother and easier to work with. So I really suggest you buy it. I'm cheap, and I'm going to use this today.
I was just at the bookstore, and right when you walk into the art section, they have book board all stacked up and book cloth all stacked up.
Nice.
So they have it all ready to go for us.
That's awesome.
Could you pass the smaller piece of book board down?
You pass it around.
Yeah.
This? I'm sorry. See, that's just a valuable pad. I think one of these is made out of book stick. Is that good?
That's good.
Okay.
I'm on the video.
So pretty much what we're going to be making is, for the case, is this. So you have 2 pieces of book board and 1 piece for the spine. So there are 3 pieces that are all the same height. And the measurements are actually on your handout. So we're now on page 3. Well, actually that's the cover, so we're on actually page 4. So page 4 is going to give you the measurements for what you need, okay? So your actual body of your book, the front and the back board of your book, have to be slightly larger than your book block. So your book block is 8 by 8, right? Your actual book has to be 1/4 of an inch on each of the exposed sides. So this is where the measurement is a little strange, and you have to really remember how it's going to be put together when you think about the measurements. So it's 1/4 of an inch on the exposed sides, but only 3 sides are exposed. The part at the spine needs to line up perfectly, right? So basically we're going to have a board that's 8 1/4 inches wide by 8 1/2 inches tall. So the cover itself is not perfectly square. You guys with me here? Okay. But they're all the same height. So here's where I have to measure something. And if I had a ruler with measurements on it, I would actually measure. But since I don't, I'm going to use this book that I already made to make the measurements. So you would measure up 8 1/2 inches, right? Oh, crap. I lost them. Do it again. Make them a little bit bigger so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to cut a long strip that's all the same width. Now here's where you could use a T-square, would be a great thing to use to get this absolutely square. Because you want to make sure your cover is beautifully square and perfect. It's going to make your whole job so much easier. Now,
Don't cut your finger.
yeah, try not to cut your fingers. Notice I'm not going through in one swipe, right? I'm taking like 100 swipes to get through this board.
And
Oops,
that's just
I
cardboard.
just screwed up.
The book
Yeah.
board's harder, right?
The book board is harder, right?